Independent Trucks has done the unthinkable. They re-released their Stage 11, one of their most popular trucks, except tiny, in a collab with joycult for fingerboards. So I headed right over to joycult's page, and these are pretty much it. They're just shrunken down Stage 11s, stainless steel construction, same exact geometry, and available in a few different sizes. And then I looked at the price.
God, bro. Oh, hell no.
The fact that they now have payment plans for fingerboard parts is diabolical. And you can actually get the full-size counterpart for a little bit less, if not sometimes half the price on sale. So of course I had to buy a set to try out and review so you don't have to waste your money. I ended up getting them from the Vault Pro Scooters because they had a good deal on for the first purchase. I got 15% off, but I ended up buying a little bit more than I had planned to. I'm gonna get right into opening the box. Right on top is a promo code for future purchases, Y2K, for 12% off. And a sticker sheet. Fingerboarding is not a crime. However, some of the prices of fingerboard parts might be. I'm going to save that for a future video, but getting right into this, I've got a new obstacle from Grindright. It's a signature Spencer Nuzzy park bench in green, and it came packed really well in this bubble wrap. I also ended up picking up some maple shark wheels. You guys in the comments have been telling me to try these for almost over a year, so I finally got a set in the mint colorway. And these actually look really cool in person. They're pretty trippy. I'm kind of excited just to try them out to see how they perform though. I plan on making an in-depth review of these wheels once I use them for at least 30 days. But the main reason why I placed this order, the Independent X joycult Collab Stage 11 trucks, aka the Jindies or Indicults. The box that they come in is pretty cool. It's got a picture of the trucks, size, and I ended up ordering the 34mm trucks. Got all their socials on there. And I think having a nice box or packaging for fingerboard parts really adds to the opening experience, and it just makes it really cool. Even the tape has their logo on it. I'm gonna peel this off and get right into the box. At first look, I thought they just sent me bubble wrap in a box, but there is in fact a truck wrapped in bubble wrap, like a little package or packet.
Freaking packet, yo!
The trucks came individually packed, and there's a third little package or packet in here. Looks like a screwdriver and some screws and lock nuts. Getting right into the first little bubble pack. First look at the trucks. These look super, super clean. The polishing on the stainless steel looks really nice. And all small little details, the joycult engraved in the bottom of the base plate and Independent Truck Co. on the top of the base plate looks super clean. And I can't really see any cast or mold lines, which is really nice, especially for small parts. But overall, these look almost exactly like Stage 11 independent trucks. Can't really describe them any other way, but in person, they did a great job and they look as good as they do in pictures. For how nice the trucks are, the tool included definitely leaves a little bit to be desired, considering it's the same tool you get with a budget pair of trucks that cost $10. Definitely does the job, but it's not gonna be as nice as a all-metal Black River tool. Weighing the trucks with the lock nuts off, it comes in at 3.35. With one lock nut on, comes in at 3.4. So the lock nuts are 0.05 approximately. And with both lock nuts on, it's 3.45 or 3.46, which is pretty much right in between Dynamics and BRTs for weight, but really close to both of them. Since the screws on the independent trucks come pre-threaded, I'm gonna go and make sure to get all the extra tape gunk out of the holes so it doesn't cause the screws to strip out. And I'm just gonna start with the one screw kind of on the inner side of the board and get everything lined up, and with the trucks flush on the board, I'm gonna kind of back thread them first because they come pre-threaded, and once they kind of click into place, I'm gonna go forward really slowly and carefully, just because if they misthread in the beginning, they can strip very easily. But once they start threading, these go in super easy. And with the first screw in, I don't have it all the way tightened down just so I can move it a little bit around. But I'm putting in the second screw on the hole opposite or kind of like diagonal to the first screw. And doing the same thing just to slowly start threading it and make sure that it's threaded properly. And I do leave them not fully tightened down to get the rest of the screws in, just because I found in the past if I tighten the first two down and then try to get the third or fourth in, sometimes it could cause them to somewhat strip out or go in a little bit crooked. But doing the same kind of process, back threading it first, going kind of counterclockwise, and then once it clicks in, going forward, seems to work pretty well. And I'm gonna get the last and final screw in. I did have a little bit of trouble with the last screw going in. At first it went in a little bit crooked and it started to strip. So I made sure to back it up and make sure it was fully threaded properly. And I just went all the way in and it went in with no problem. And I was able to tighten down all 4 of the screws and make sure the base plate was flush to the board. But overall, the installation process was pretty easy and relatively smooth, especially using a little bit larger screwdriver. It definitely helps a lot with the precision and also making sure not to over tighten the screws. With both of the trucks on the board, already it looks super nice. And I did notice that the trucks kind of sit a little bit wider than the Dynamics or Obvious trucks that I have, just because they hang over this board just slightly. With the base plates flush on the bottom of the board and the screws all the way screwed in, I'm going to go ahead and get the wheels on. One thing I noticed with these lock nuts is they actually are a really nice kind of shape to them. They're a little bit different than lock nuts I've seen in the past from Dynamic, BRTs, or Obvious. But they almost have like a little bit of like a flange or like where it's like tapered in on the end. It's kind of hard to see, but I'm going to go ahead and preload the lock nuts inside of the wheel just like this. I've got the nylon lock nut side on the outside. By preloading the lock nuts like this, it makes it super easy to pick up everything with a tool and put it right onto the trucks by picking up this tool and the wheel all in one. And I kind of do the same thing that I do with the screws as far as going backwards first and then slowly going forward, just make sure that they're properly threaded. And I also try to make sure that the tool is perfectly straight with the axle or in line so it doesn't kind of go sideways and possibly strip out the axle threads. I really like how I can tighten up the lock nuts on these trucks all the way so it's snug. And I'm just going to go ahead and back it off just a little bit so it has a little bit of play. But the amount of tolerance that these trucks have seems really nice. And everything so far is super precise. With all 4 of the shark wheels on the independent trucks and properly adjusted, it looks really, really cool. Definitely a super unique setup, something I normally would not do, but they are a little bit bigger wheel than what I'm used to as well, and they actually roll super smooth. First kickflip test is a success, and these wheels actually feel really nice with the trucks. Has a good amount of pop to it. I've never really tried wheels this large before, but overall I'm pretty impressed with how it feels just from the initial couple of tricks. And trying some nollies and some other tricks, feels really smooth as well. The larger wheels definitely make the board sit up higher, but the trucks also have a pretty high ride height compared to Dynamics or BRTs, sitting a little bit higher than BRTs. And prior to that, BRTs were some of the tallest trucks that I had. And I really like the fact that Impossibles, because of the higher height, actually seem a little bit easier, as well as the board is not too heavy. So I'm able to do flip tricks into taller obstacles like this Tech Deck Jersey barrier pretty easily. And same thing goes for the Tech Deck bike rack that sits a little bit higher, super easy to get into tricks. Testing out the Spencer Nuzzy signature grindright park bench, I am really liking this obstacle already. And it's got a bunch of different textures and sounds that it makes, as well as the different levels or layers. It's fun to do different trick combos off of. And I also like that it has a angled part to the bench so you can do tricks off the back of it. When it comes to turning and carving radius, the independent joycult trucks do really well. They're very similar in a lot of ways to Black River as far as the turning and carving radius, but for some reason, maybe with the larger wheels, it actually feels even better. So I'm going to be trying some different wheels on the setup at some point. But for now, I definitely like the way this setup feels. And compared to the Black River, it has really similar as far as carving and the turning radius. Obvious trucks, which have a lot less turning radius and carving radius, definitely grips a bit more. And Dynamics as well, they do not have as much of a turning radius, and also carving is going to be a little bit more grippy. The taller ride height on the independent trucks definitely helps with the carving and giving clearance for the larger wheels without getting any wheel bite. And I didn't actually even have to use any riser pads for the larger wheels. For Obvious or Dynamics, I would definitely have to use some riser pads for the shark wheels. And BRT sit pretty high too. Obvious sits a little bit lower, closer to Dynamics kind of ride height. And as far as wheelbase goes, the BRTs are going to be the shortest, followed by the independents. Then the Obvious and Dynamics are a little bit longer. One thing I really like about the independent joycult trucks is that since they are stainless steel, they're not showing much wear and tear even after 2 weeks of solid use. And the raw dynamics as well as the obvious trucks are very similar in the fact that they're not showing a lot of wear even after a year of use. However, on the other side, there are V2 trucks. On the left are new. The ones on the right have been used for about a month, and they're showing a lot of the copper plating. The delis I have not used enough to know, but I do believe they show a lot of the copper plating after using them for a while as well. And the chrome dynamics definitely do. You can see them here, and the BRTs as well show the copper plating after a while. Overall, my initial impression of the independent trucks is that they rival some of the top of the line trucks like BRTs and Dynamics. And in a lot of ways, if BRTs and Dynamics had a baby, these are the trucks that I would expect to come out. The level of quality is amazing, but they're definitely on the steep side when it comes to price. But considering the high level of scaled realism and that they are an official licensed product with independent trucks and joycult as a collab, I definitely think the price is somewhat justified even though it is still on the high side. As for the wheels go, I definitely like them. I think they're a little bit of a novelty item, but they roll really smooth. I'll definitely do a further review later down the line of those as well as the obstacle, which so far with the obstacle, I think it was the best out of all of the purchases. That about wraps up this unboxing initial review. Let me know if you have any other questions or comments about the independent trucks or anything in this video, as well as if you picked up a pair of independent trucks, let me know what you think down below. And thanks so much for watching. Until next time, peace.